Hey guys, welcome back to the Home Turf. Hopefully you're doing good and having a great day. I love you all. I'm so glad you can join me. Men and women are not equal. Not. It's nature. It's biology. The sooner we understand that, the sooner we can fix what the fuck is going on with our society. Because it's more than just a fucking gender war today. But more on that later on. Now, the roles that men and women play in society are of equal value, yes, because without women becoming wives and mothers, society collapses. And without men becoming providers and protectors, society also collapses, right? So we are essential for each other. Without one or the other, society begins to suffer pretty immediately, actually. um, and so now men can last a little bit longer, right? But women absolutely will not. Will not. And we'll get to that here in a minute as well. So, why is it that men and women are not equal? Well, first of all, we have to ask, why is it that we have never been equal, right? There should be a rephrasing to really understand not just the psychology of us, but to understand how we've lived for so long, right? Our genus, you have to understand, has lived for over 300,000 years, right? That's a long, long, long time. And so there's a reason for that, right? Nature will always reward the fittest, right? The individuals or the species that will do whatever it takes to survive. And look, you look at other animal kingdoms, the males and females are treated completely different, right? You look at lions with their prides, how there's always a top dog who's going to be the male, right? And then you also have other species such as silverback gorillas where the males are at the top, right? And naturally there will be harems of females, lionesses or lioness, and then you also have, female silverback gorillas who, will dedicate themselves to the top dog, right? This is no different from our own species, right? We are animals in the same. For some reason, ever since we invented religion, we have disassociated ourselves from all of the other animals simply because of our complex of thought. However, the animal still is there because we still rely on our baser instinct for survival, for progression in society, for a lot of different things. And so we still behave in a way that shows the baser animal in us, right? That's why women will always look for more masculine men, and men will always look for more feminine women. And so, ever since that we have procured hierarchies in our society, social status, status being the key word, men and women respectively have also understood that they will be treated the same based on that status. Because like other animal kingdoms or nature in general, our species is one and the same, where we reward off of merit, right? And so when it comes to being the fittest of survival, or when it comes to being the fittest for survival, men have always had a duty to the community as a whole, right? More of a collectivism. Whereas women were more individualistic, right? They were more based on what their needs are. Obviously, because women rely on men, right? And men rely on the community. More accurately, they rely on their brothers, right? That's why back in, we can say the Paleolithic ages, there were large groups of men, or maybe not large groups of men, but there were definitely, substantial groups of men who would go out on hunts. And they were only men, or majority men. I guarantee you there weren't many women. Because, again, both men and women understood that women, their duty was to the home, the tribe, right? Their duty was to take care of the children, to nurture. That was their responsibility in the private domain, where the men needed to gather food, right? And so they needed to brave the world, to bring those resources back to the tribe. And so that comes with a lot of psychological development that men have to absolutely have in order to not just benefit themselves, but benefit their families, their community, such as perseverance, determination, stoicism, right? And then, you also have the fact of when they came back, they also had to deal with other things as well. This is why PTSD is such a huge thing, because when you come back, you're never the same. You're never the same, and this is why people respect the warrior class so much, because you are. I'm telling you, you are a completely different person from when you go into the warrior class versus when you come out of it. Once a warrior, always a warrior, right? But men have always been the ones who have stepped into this warrior class, right? And so there will always be a need for protection and provisioning. There will always be a need. And there will also always be a need for nurturing and caregiving, right? That's why the majority of men are in the military. Or I'm sorry, that's why the military that's why men overwhelmingly represent military members. And women overwhelmingly represent caregiving jobs, such as nursing, such as doctors, such as, well, I mean, maybe not doctors, but nursing for sure. Nursing, call center jobs, because both of these things play to their natural roles. And so it's this is how society has always functioned, right? And then you also have leadership roles as well. Men have always understood as well that they would not just have to take responsibility of leadership for the family, but the community, right? And there would have to be some kind of leader. That's why there was always chieftains when it came to tribes, presidents when it came to nations. That's why there always has to be a figurehead up at the top that provides a direction where to go, and those are typically men, right? And in some societies, you also have it's not a matriarchy. It's matrilineal. That's right. It's a matrilineal society, right? Specifically, I think it's the Iroquois, where a lot of the women come together and they pick and choose what happens. But and I think that's namely the I think that was the tribal mother, right? I think that was the tribal mother. But regardless of that, there was always a warrior class. Now they would have to go to the mother for the warrior, but there was always a warrior class and there always was a chief, right? And the chief being a man. So even in these matrilineal societies, there was still a man at the top. There was still a male-dominated society. Again, because like every other animal kingdom, the males are the ones that rule at the top because we are fit to, right? And this is what's so hard for modern women to understand, is that modern women, I mean, average women just cannot compete with men, right? And here's something that really, really pisses a lot of feminists off. Men allowed women the right to vote. Allowed it. And so it's not that women just came together and then, you know, the guys were like, oh, okay, whatever, right? No. Men allowed this to happen. Now, this was after this was after these feminists were bombing and setting fires to, you know, innocent local business owners and stuff like that. But men allowed this to happen. And since have allowed everything to happen, you know, that feminism has turned into today. And then you also have a lot of these corporations who are actively trying to keep people miserable because they make money off of it. It's why women are the biggest consumers today, and also the more and also the most miserable. And you know, we could also argue that men are you know the most miserable they've ever been as well, and that's also definitely true, which is why you know black pillars are so prevalent today. People just, or men specifically, just checking out of society. Side note, I completely understand why people would want to check out society. I completely understand it, but here's the thing, right? This is where I disagree with black pillars, man or woman, is that when you give up on society, you're actively giving up on people who want to try. And so, as rare as it may be to find someone who actively wants to not just fix themselves, but fix society, you can't just give up on them, right? You can't do that. Again, because man or woman, we've always depended on each other, right? And so, you know, I don't want you guys to give up on me. I'm trying to do everything I can, not just to help myself, but help you guys as well. And so just don't give up, man. Just don't give up, right? I understand today it's so easy to, especially with how women treat men today. And even how women treat each other. Oh my God. It's terrible how women treat each other. They hate each other. Right? But listen, you know, man or woman, you can't give up, man. We have to keep working for a better society, because obviously what's you know working today is not working. We know that, right? And so something has to change, but I need your help to change it. So, but I'll end that there. So when it comes to men's achievements, right? Because as I was saying earlier, nature will always reward the fittest, right? Even in our own kingdom, our own animal kingdom, our species. As I was talking about earlier, I was talking about merit, right? And being rewarded based off merit. It's the same thing. That's why we see today, and we're watching nature actively play out, right? Where you have attractive men who have absurd amount of status, right? Let's just say the extreme. You know, the top 1% of men, where men are very attractive, right? They're very fit. They have a lot of money. We see most of women vying for that kind of guy. That is nature actively playing out, right? So this right here. This is what rewards Um, or this is what it means for men to be rewarded, is they get to pass on their genes, their legacy, right? And women respectively will always have that opportunity to pass on their genes as well, right? But it's not seen as as the same thing as men, right? It's weird. It's really weird to explain. Um, for for men, it's a necessity, right? For women, it's a choice. I think that's the best way that I can really explain that. Um, we are biologically driven as men to pass on our legacy, right? That's part of why we have the drive to do what we do. Because we understand that the end goal of manhood, right, is to leave a legacy with our children. Whereas women, it's a choice, right? They can see any kind of man, and they will actively choose the best men that they can. And it's in their best interest to do, and that's something that's completely fine, right? It's hypergamy. Um, but it's not something that is increasingly as important as it is for men. Now, we can say that, obviously motherhood is, one of the best things that can happen for men, for women, and and fatherhood is one of the best things that can happen for men as well, right? But it's different. It's different, and I'm trying to explain the best that I can. Um, but yeah, for men, it's an absolute necessity. This has to happen, right? For women, it's just a choice, and they choose the best men possible. And if there's no males available that she sees is worth it, she won't choose. Or maybe she will, right? And she will bear children, but the resentment will come pretty quickly. And this is what a lot of us are seeing today. A lot of women are getting into marriages, relationships with men that they don't really deem respectable, or with men they don't deem respectable. And that's because we flipped our nature on its head, and again have forced an idea that just does not work, right? As I've explained earlier, women have a duty to the home, men have a duty to the public, right? To the community. And so women will actively look for men who they deem is better than they are, right? This is why women actively understand that men and women are not equal. Someone who is smarter, faster, stronger, more capable, right? They want to feel safe and secure, right? That is when women will feel the most attraction for a man, is if she feels safe, right? Safe with you for anything, right? She can always come to you when she needs something, right? There's a need that is satisfied. You know what I'm saying? So, it's the same thing. And for men, right? Men will need a woman, right, to bear his children, for sure. Yes. However, right, a man does not need a woman to go and procure resources. He can do that himself. Right. Whereas women, can they do that? Yes. Are they more capable? No. Not by any means. That's why they always relied on men to do that. Right. And so this is why men and women are treated differently. And this is why women actively understand actively understand through their behavior, not in their thoughts, because a lot of women have been convinced today that they are equal, right? And this is why women are going to colleges, getting into massive amounts of debt, and then they're crying and complaining about having to pay all the debt off. And they're realizing today that things just aren't working. And unfortunately, with AI sweeping across the nation so swiftly and eliminating all of these call center jobs, women are going to be affected pretty massively. And I suspect a lot of them are going to default to their bodies. A lot of them will. Because that's also the nature of things too. It's the harsh nature of things, right? The harsh reality that people will also have to really accept here very soon. Women will default to their bodies, as they always have. And men will also default to hard labor, as they always have. Right? That's where men shine. Labor and women to their bodies, right? Marriage, wives, stuff like that. It's not just having to do with sex. And then men, labor, such as the warrior class, infrastructure, lumber, firefighting, policemen, stuff like that. So, but and I do suspect a lot of them will, default to, or a lot of women will default to, their bodies in such ways as, OnlyFans or, sex work, stuff like that, of some kind. I expect to see a huge spike in that here pretty soon. And that's our way of life is about to completely flip on its head, and people aren't ready for it. People just are not ready for it. It's going to happen so quickly, and people aren't going to know what to do because it's going to be so new to them. And it's also going to come so quickly that people are just going to be caught off guard. And so don't get caught off guard, Um, I watch Bo Rithik's channel a lot, and he was talking about, getting familiar with AI and using AI. And I think that's a great idea because the future is AI. That is the future. Unfortunately, but it is the future. And so the sooner you get acquainted with AI, right, and you work with AI, to help you build a business or whatnot. I know that's something incredibly difficult for the average man to do, because I'm specifically talking about men here. But it's something that isn't impossible, and you can do it. It's something that I'm actually looking at myself. But you have to figure it out, right? Because again, nature will always reward the fittest. And whatever environment you're in, if you're not the fittest, you will not survive. So, but this is why men and women are treated differently. This is why men and women have never been equal and never will be equal, right? Because it's always been men who have had to step up, lead societies, protect and provide for those societies, right? Provide a future, a way for those societies to grow. See, women and children have always survived off of the shoulders of men. Always. And that will always be the case, right? Here's a good example. Think of the Titanic, right? Men built the Titanic. But who were the last to leave when the Titanic was going down? It was the men. The women and children were the first to get off the ship and go. They were already safe. But men actively drowned and froze to death. Rest in peace, Jack. So here's the thing, right? this is why men are held in such regards, and this is why women will always hold, high status men in such high regards as well. Um, just nature, guys. It's just nature, right? So, but that's it. I think I've talked about all I can talk about on this. And if you guys happen to have your own thoughts, please let me know. I'd love to hear what you guys are thinking. Yeah, I think I've talked about a lot of really interesting things to talk about. So, if you guys happen to have anything that you want me to specifically talk about, I'll be more than happy to do so. Yeah, that's all I got. So, make sure you guys are taking care of yourselves, both mind and body. Please take care of yourselves. Get fit, both in the mind and the body. Just get active of some kind. I'm about to go do that as well. It looks like a nice hot day, and so I want to go for a good sweat. But be sure, guys, that you are also taking care of each other. Okay, that's because, again, as we've talked about through the whole video, each other is all we have. So, right, we gotta look after each other. Thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate every single one of you. Every single one of you. You guys are so amazing. I love every one of you, and I hope that these videos are really helping you. And if they are, please like and subscribe. I greatly appreciate that, guys, because you're not just joining a YouTube channel. You're joining a family. You're joining a movement, right? This is a movement to bring people together, to figure out life together so that we can actively fix what's going on in our society. And I need your help to do that. So, thank you so much. I wish you all a very lovely day. If you need me for anything, reach out. My door is always open. Thank you all so much, guys. I'll talk to you soon.